effects and natural disasters in the past few years. And this event, as we all know, that it can potentially destroy many properties, infrastructures, including educational infrastructures, and also productive assets, with most fatalities occurring in developing countries. Therefore, it has led to an increase of studies about its consequences in numerous aspects. For example, like the impact of natural disasters on economic growth, labor market, health, household expenditure and spending, electoral, and also mental health. The relevant literatures on impact on education, it's not so many. I divided the studies, the relevant literatures between the immediate and the long-term impacts. So, for example, the immediate impacts, it's the paper from Cerca and Di Pietro. It is about the impact on university enrollment and also university completions, and also test scores. So these papers evaluates the impact directly, not long after the earthquake or the other natural disasters. And also there are also long-term impacts on the natural disaster on educational attainment, conducted by Pau del Rio and Caruso Miller. And according to our knowledge, the study that we conducted in this case, this is the first study that discussed about the impact of natural disaster on educational outcome in developing country setting located in Southeast Asia. And I believe we already know about the Yogyakarta earthquake that happened in 2006. I just explain you a little bit about what did really happen. So it was 5.9 Richter scale that struck most districts in Yogyakarta province, and also around several districts in Central Java province. And when we compare to Aceh tsunami in 2004, it was one of the costliest natural disaster as well in developing countries. And according to the Java Reconstruction Fund, there were over 5,000 people killed, nearly 300,000 properties destroyed, and almost 3,000 educational infrastructures were damaged and destroyed. And the cost, it was estimated around $3 billion US dollar. Okay, so in this study, we evaluate the impact of earthquake exposure on years of educations. And as a preview, we found that the earthquake reduced around 0.7 years of educations, with younger cohort suffer more. And secondly, this earthquake affects or reduce the completion rate in primary school and junior high school by around 12 percentage points. However, we did not find any evidence that this earthquake affects the completion rates on senior high school and the university. And also, we did not find any effects on the enrollment rate to post-compulsory schooling. As we all know, until now, the post-compulsory schooling in Indonesia, it's from the senior high school. Okay, so in order to do that, to prove this hypothesis, first of all, the database that we use for this study, the first one, it comes from the US Geological Survey. So from this source, we can get the modified Mercalli intensity value, which is the value or a measurement for the earthquake exposure. And second one, for the household panel data, we are using Indonesian Family Life Survey, and we are focusing on the IFLS 5, which is the latest one until right now. And well, yeah, it provides, as we all know, as everybody know, that in Indonesian Family Life Survey, there are a lot of aspects that we can extract from there. But specifically, what we need to run this study, the information that we need. It's about the individual's characteristics, educational attainment, and most importantly, it's the locations based on province and districts of the respondents' birthplace, current residence, and the most important part is the migration history. However, even though we are focusing on IFLS 5, we also using previous waves to retrieve more information about individuals' characteristics and the previous residents that are missing in IFLS 5. And also, we also use the wave 2000 and 2007 for falsification analysis. So how did we do with this database? So first of all, about the earthquake data. In the USGS, in the United States Geological Survey, we can get the MMI shape files here. This shape files contains the value of the MMI, and we combine these shape files with the Indonesian shape files map, which we focus on the Java Island only, because this earthquake happened in the Java Island, specifically in Yogyakarta province. After we merge that, we can extract this value, and then we run the intersections analysis by using QGIS software in order to locate where this value lies on each districts. And then after that, we define that the districts that have a value greater or equal to 5, it is considered as strong. And this definition is based on, first, the USGS definitions, where the MMI equal to 5 or starting from 5 are considered strong. And second, district with MMI starting from 5 have casualties. Therefore, we decided that the affected districts have the MMI equal or greater than 5. Well, later, I will show you as well the sensitivity analysis about the outcome if we use higher MMI value. Okay, so for the identifications, we employ different strategy. So by using the IFLS, we divide 2 cohorts. So after we divide which one is the affected and which one is the non-affected area, we use the IFLS to divide young and old cohort. And young cohort starting with the birth year from 1987 to 2000. And the reason we choose this cutoff from 1987, it's because that's the oldest cohort that were still in school when the earthquake struck in 2006. Okay, and this is the equations for the regressions in our identification strategy, where the Y here is the outcome of interest, containing years of educations, primary, junior high, and senior high school completion rates, and post-compulsory schooling enrollment rates for individual I who are living in District J in 2006 and belonging to cohort T. And the main parameter of interest in these equations is beta here, which gives the impact of the earthquake on educational outcome of individual during the time of the earthquake in the affected districts. And we also account for the birth year fixed effects, the district fixed effects, and also an individual covariates. And we cluster the standard error at the district level because the level of the MMI is also on the district levels, which is the level of variations of exposure to the earthquake. Okay, so before we go to the results, I would like to show you first about the summary statistics in the estimation sample that we use. And as we can see, here are the outcomes that we use for this study, and the rest are the individual covariates. And we have a good pattern here. According to descriptive statistics, individual residing in the affected districts, so this part, have more have more education than non-affected districts, and regardless of their birth cohort, of course, so old or young, it doesn't really matter. And for example, like for the outcome of years of educations, the old and young, they have on average they have years of educations of around more than 10 and 11 years, and for the non-affected one, it's around 9.3 years. There is a reasons of that. The higher educational outcomes in the affected districts here it's due to the high number of schools and universities that are located somewhere around in Yogyakarta's province. Okay, so this is the results. This is the baseline results for the outcome of years of educations. As I mentioned earlier, that the effects of the earthquakes on the years of educations is around 0.7 years with or without controls. And when we break out the young variables here into three categories, as we can see here, this earthquake affects cohort who were born in 92 to 96 and also 97 to 2000. It doesn't affect a cohort with the birth year from 87 to 91. And as we can see, the coefficient here, the younger suffer more from this earthquake. And for the next outcome, as we can see here, the only evidence that we get from these estimations are the effect on the primary school completions and junior high school completions. As we can see here, the effects on the primary school and junior high school completion rate is around 12 percentage point reductions from this earthquake. We try to get more information in order to explain about why the earthquake was only affected to primary school and junior high school completions, not the other outcomes. We found reports from World Bank that the most destroyed school infrastructures are primary and junior high school. And according to that report, this school's building quality was the primary cause of the high level of destructions, especially in rural area, where most schools were built in the 1970s, where the structures of the buildings are mostly non-earthquake resistant and lack of other safety standards. So it is, however, in line with our result that the most casualties, most affected educational institution were from the primary and the junior high school. Okay, so in order to justify our results, we did robustness checks, and also later I will explain about the heterogeneity analysis as well. So as I mentioned earlier, that we did a sensitivity analysis of the MMI. So in here, as we can see, we break down the MMI into three parts. So the first one is MMI equal to 5 to 6.49, and then 650 to 7.49, and then the last one is greater or equal to 7.5. And from this result, as we can see, the higher the MMI we employ, the higher the coefficients that we get. So therefore, the MMI it's a good instrument to be used in this in these equations.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Khalfani, your time is still 1 minute left. Maybe I can give you 2 minutes so we can jump on the questions and answers. Yeah, okay. I think it should be faster. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay. Oh, I thought it's 15 minutes. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so I just want to show you, I can show you the other robustness checks, but what I want to show you here, one of the most important things is that the fake locations. So in here, we exclude the districts that are covered by the MMI. So as we can see, this is the map that I showed you earlier. So, and this is where the MMI shape file after merging. So we remove this area. So we only use this area and this area for the falsification analysis, and then we assign a fake earthquake, randomly, and then we repeat the process 10,000 times. So it is like a Monte Carlo simulation, and we repeat that, and then we estimate the effects, and what we get here, we histogram the result, and what we get here, why it's coming back, sorry. Okay, so what we get is that for each outcome, most of the results are close to zero. So that means that after 10,000 times repeats of these simulations, we can argue that the assigning of this fake earthquake do not affect any educational outcomes. Okay. One last thing, what I would like to show you is the heterogeneity result. Okay, so we split the sample in here for the outcome of the years of educations. And for example, like gender here, the males suffer more from this earthquake. And what is so interested here is about the fathers and mothers' educations. So people or individual who have fathers or mothers' educations with post-compulsory schooling are suffer less from this earthquake compared to the individual who have parents with education only up to compulsory schoolings. Okay, well, how many time do I have left?
It should be finished now.
Okay. Okay. Well,
we can jump for the conclusions.
Okay, let me jump to my conclusions. Okay, so as a conclusions, we found that this 2006 Yogyakarta earthquakes lowers years of education by around 0.7 years. And as mentioned earlier, the younger suffer more from this natural disaster. And it decreased the completion rate in primary and junior high school only by around 12 percentage point. We did not find any statistical evidence that this earthquake affects the completion and enrollment to post-compulsory schooling. And what we still consider for further analysis, that we are going to restrict individual who never change district after the earthquake. And secondly, we would like to substitute, because the earthquake can go through many channels, we would like to substitute the MMI with the number of school damage relative to the total number of school before the earthquake. Okay, I think that's all for me. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Khalifani. Now it's time for questions. If everyone wants to have a questions, you can use the raise hand features in Zoom. So I'll let you know who want to make a questions. No one?
I saw Mr. Dibyo in here. Mr. Yudhistira, how are you?
Yeah.
Good, thanks. Good luck for your presentation.
It's a long time not to see. We have to get a coffee together.
Yeah.
Also see Mr. Gilang. How are you, Mr. Gilang?
Hi, SD. I'm doing well, thank you. Nice presentation.
Thank you.
So there's no questions here.
Sorry, I thought it was 15 minutes presentation. Is that?
Yeah, it should be
Because,
15 minutes presentations. Yeah.
And I'm already up to more
Yeah.
than 15 minutes. Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry,
it's
I
okay.
lost count.
Okay, no questions. Anyone? Okay, now, okay, if no one have a question, so make a question. So how you control like the dynamics or the difference of this MMI or something, I forgot the name, about the near the cutoff, like a 5 or 4 point some 4.7, 4.8, 4.9, maybe because maybe they feel the same.
Well, we have tests. Well, we don't. I don't have this on my slides actually, but first of all, the MMI value it's a continuous variables, and then when we assign to the to each districts, the MMI value that we use it's the average MMI value, and then after just for example, like district Klaten. District Klaten has the lowest value of the MMI, which is 5, exactly 5. But below that, just below that, it's around 4.8 something. And I forgot the name of the districts. It is not really far from Klaten districts. It's around 4.8 MMI. And they don't have casualties over there. And they don't have any damaged or destroyed infrastructures. So in that case, that's why we decide to cut to give this cutoff from the MMI, and then we also tried whether, let's say, for example, we use the MMI from 4 to go up, and well, the result was not it's bad. The result was bad because we include districts that are not affected by the this earthquake. So that's why that's how we justify this. And also from other papers that use the MMI value for the earthquake exposure, most of the papers they also use 5 in this case. So yeah, so that's why it justify us to use the MMI starting from 5. And let's say if there is any district that have a value like just under 5, I'm not sure. I don't think we still also have to compare not just from the MMI, but it's also with other factors. As I said earlier about the casualties, the number of casualties.
Maybe it's my suggestion. Maybe you can also try to use like a continuous treatment. It's like a treatment, like a diff in diff treatment. Like the treatment is 1, the control is 0. Maybe you can just try to maybe run regressions for the continuous variable, then the MMI, rather than dummy. Maybe using MMI and interact it with the birth cohort. Maybe it's not perfect, but still, because of, if I'm not mistaken, there's a lot of literatures using like this kind of diff in diff, using this, especially for the crime rate, because also like a homicide in Mexico, in Nigeria, and something they use this type of continuous diff in diff. Yeah, but yeah,
okay.
You can try to check.
Okay, thank you for the suggestions. Okay, we will try that. Obviously.
Okay, is there any questions? No, I cannot see other people want to ask questions, or maybe suggestions, or only all discussions. Everything it's okay. Not only questions.
Mas Arif, are you in Napoli?
Yeah, I'm in Napoli now. Everyone happy
Okay.
today except me, because I support England and everyone support Italy.
How's the COVID over there?
COVID is really good here. Like now we are not obligatory to use mask, so it's like no COVID here now. Yeah.
Yeah, the same like in Spain. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the number of COVIDs are rising now.
Yeah, we know like everyone wants to go to party like Italy and Spain. We have the same, more or less the same cultures of this party things. Okay, if there is no other questions, so thank you, Mr. Khalifani. I can
Yeah.
thank you for your presentation. It's very interesting. Maybe you can improve more on your presentations or no, or your paper. And now
Okay.
we have Mrs. Kaneta Sabila from Indonesian Institute of Science, LIPI, who will present the paper about Indonesian students' perspective of the online school during COVID-19 pandemic, the social media analysis. Mr. Kaneta Sabila, the time is yours and you have 15 minutes to present. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mas Arif. Let me check my slide. Okay. Okay. Can you see it, Mas Arif?
Sure, I think
Okay.
everyone can see it.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. So today I will present my study about Indonesian students' perspective of the online school during the COVID-19 pandemic, the social media analysis. My name is Kaneta Sabila. I'm from the Indonesian Institute of Sciences. So the background of this study is about the distance learning, which has happened since March 2020. Around 45 million students in Indonesia should adapt with the distance learning due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So they have to study from their home by the internet connection. And the previous research say that the experience of the distance learning was various depending on three aspects. The first one is teachers and internet and teaching skills. And the second one is the funding support for school. And the last one is social economic condition of parents. And the impacts of online school for students are also varied in different countries and different studies. And they generated both negative and positive impacts for students. For example, the negative impacts are students may be more stressful due to the pandemic, more anxious, and also they got less poor score. And also the positive impacts such as they may be more comfortable when they are studying from their house, and also they will be more independent in their study. Oh, wait, okay. So the evaluation is needed to understand what currently happened in the education system during the pandemic, and understanding students' perspective is also essential because they are the object of our education system. And the previous research on what is the impact of distance learning to the students mostly used online survey and also the phone interview. But in my research, I tried to look at the social media data and analyze the data to fill the gap on the methodology. You know, when the students are in the social media, they will be more free to say about anything and they don't feel like they are researched by someone. And that's why it's important to look at the social media data. So the objective of this research is to analyze the Indonesian students' perception of online school by using social media data, specifically Twitter data. So like I have mentioned before, I used the Twitter data, and the data was imported by the Netlytics software. It's a software to crawl social media data, not only for Twitter, but also for YouTube and also Facebook. And they can crawl, collected so many tweets and also comments from the tweets. And so I have to write the Twitter search query in Netlytics, and the query I used was sekolah and dari rumah or online or daring Lang ID. So I should explain about this. I search for the tweets that contain word sekolah, and it should combine words dari rumah or online or daring, because sometimes the tweets contain the words sekolah dari rumah, sekolah online, sekolah daring, which means the same. And Lang ID means I search for the tweets with Indonesian language. So I could collect like 12,243 tweets from Netlytics from 1st to 31st March 2021. So I analyzed the word level sentiment analysis for the collected tweets. I look at the most frequent word used in the collected tweets. Like if you collect some tweets, then you can calculate how many words come and what is the most frequent word come from the tweets. So if I found the adjective words that mean something good, then I consider it as the positive sentiment. But on the other hand, if I see the other adjective words that meaning when the meaning is bad, so I determine it as the negative sentiment. So this is the results of the sentiment analysis. I found that 81.59% of the tweets contain negative sentiment, and the words appeared like capek, males, bodoh, kurang, bosen, and others. And only 18.41% contains the positive sentiment, like, and the words appeared only 3, nyaman, alhamdulillah, and bagus. Look, this is the frequency of each word with sentimental tendency appear from the collected tweets, and look at the 3 most frequent word appeared were the negative sentiment, capek, males, bodoh. It looks like the students feel tired and lazy due to the pandemic, and they feel more stupid maybe because of the pandemic. But fortunately, the 4th one is nyaman, which is maybe some of them feel comfortable when they are studying from their home. And also look at some interesting words here, like the words tugas. It counts 537 times in the tweet. And when I look one by one to the tweet and I look at the word tugas, it's always combined with the word many, which means the students are feel burdened by the task, by so many tasks. Sorry. Okay. By many tasks. And I also find the positive word like enak or ngerti, which is maybe a positive sentiment, but when I look at the tweets one by one, then I see that it's not a positive sentiment because the combination of the words was enggak, which means nggak enak, not good. So they feel like the online school was not good for them, and also they don't understand the materials or maybe what the teacher said during the online school. And the third word is also interesting. It's putus. When I look at the tweets, then it's about putus sekolah, which is the number of students that drop out from school due to the pandemic, and also internet putus, which means that maybe during the pandemic, during the online school, the internet is broken, so they couldn't continue to study, or maybe they don't understand what this teacher say because the internet is broken, something like that. And I also analyze the user location. In the Netlytic, the user location come from the profile, user's profile, and you can put the location in the user profile, and the Netlytic will calculate it. And most of the users said they come from Indonesia, and the top 10 user location you can see is the big cities in Java. Even the Java Island was mentioned there, Java or Java Islands mentioned there. Jakarta, Bandung, Yogyakarta, Tasikmalaya, Surabaya is big city in Java Island. And even the words kota appeared here. So it means that social media users in Indonesia are still concentrated in big cities in Java Island maybe. And it also appeared that the internet connection, the internet penetration in Indonesia also still concentrated in this area. And if you look at the cities here, the user location based on which city they live, I can divide it by the city in Java and outside the Java. You can see that it's still dominated by the city from the Java Island. It's 56.5%. So only the rest, 43.5%, come from outside Java. So I could say that from the social media data, online school was the best experience for the student because the majority of the students felt that online school gave negative impacts for them. And if you read at the news, some of the pandemic could lead to the drop out from school, and also the child marriages are high during the pandemic. And it's the best experience for our students in this pandemic too, when they couldn't go to school. And also, I noticed that the internet penetration in Indonesia is still worse because, yeah, one of my findings, I could find that the internet putus is word, the phrase that appear most from the tweets. So I think the improvement of internet penetration is essential to ensure the effectiveness of online school. And also the health versus education. It's we always hear about health versus economy during this pandemic, but it's also health versus education, I think, because the students are suffering from the online schools policy. But if they go to school now, they maybe got infected. So I think it's the government and the effort to control the spread of COVID-19 would be the crucial point to bring back the students to the school. So that's the end of my presentation. I like to hear some comments, suggestions, or questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Kanetasha. Yeah, it's really interesting because we are economists here. Most of us as economists never use this kind of method, so it's much more it's interesting, and I think it should be a lot of questions. The first question is from Mr. Yudhistira Hendra. Maybe Mr. Yudhistira, you can talk directly to Mrs. Kanetasha just to make sure that discussion much more lively than just writing in the chat. Mr.
All right. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. So yeah, I'm interested on how you separate between bot and organic tweets, and perhaps the person on post tweet, because you.
Okay.
Yeah, because Twitter is much, I mean, some we believe, some we not. So yeah, how did you do that?
Okay.
Thanks.
I actually look at the tweets one by one because I didn't know how to make it more efficient. So I look at the tweet one by one. That's the answer.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, then Mr. Khalifani.
Okay. Thank you. It's nice presentations, Kanet.
Yeah,
And
thank you, Mas.
what I would like to ask first, did you also ask the respondents about where do they live, like in which area or in which province? Because I think it's going to be good, let's say, to make some kind of a map. Let's say they are from the area or the province that have let's say the lack of internet infrastructure, so we can see which part of Indonesia that have most of the bad feedbacks, let's say like in your presentations, putus, and how frequent they use putus. I think that's going to be good if you also ask about that. I mean, it's just simple. It doesn't have to be specific. You can just ask about the what district are you from, for example, like that.
Okay.
And also I think you also can ask about the respondents about the what educational institutions are they from. I mean, not the name, but whether they are come from the primary, junior, or senior high school. And I think that's going to be good. And so you're going to have a good variations in your data, and you can also explain more about it when you have more of these variations. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mas Asdi. Yeah, I actually really want to do that, but because of the time limitation and also data limitation, so I couldn't to what you have suggested me. So in the future works, I will include maybe to separate which like what you say, which location are really suffering from the internet connection or something like that. Thank you, Mas Asdi.
Okay, next is Mr. Gumilang.
Okay, thank you so much, Arif. Natasha, congratulations for the paper. I think it was really
Mas Gilang.
well presented. I think I have a similar comments with Asti. So if you could try to identify the location, I think that's going to be super useful. So you could do further analysis, as well as you can also try to tie, some other external variables, such as the one downloaded from the Dapodik, and then try to see whether there's any correlation between school level characteristics or regional level characteristics with the sentiment that was given via the Twitter. I think that's going to be an interesting follow-up analysis. Also, if I think it's also going to be interested if you try to do a follow-up questionnaire or do a follow-up survey for individuals who are in this Twitter. I think that's something that it can be done technologically. Thinking like you can create a survey with all the informed consents, as well as the questionnaire, and then you can send them via the direct messages or via retweets. I think that's going to be interesting. That's going to be another pathway of future researchers, given that we're doing a lot of things via online nowadays. So that's the second comment. And then the third comment will be to try to think about how or whether the statistics that you got from the Twitter will be, relatively underestimated or is actually overestimated, conditional on the general population. The general population could be very, very different to the subpopulation who has smartphone or has access to internet and then be able to use the Twitter. Perhaps, if we try to take average of the overall population, it's going to be a bit different, but how different, I think that's something that you want to also discuss in the paper. I think that will be useful. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the suggestion, Mas Gilang.
Okay, for me personally, I have some questions. If
Oh,
there's
okay.
no other questions or something, okay,
I would like to add a little bit.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I tried to find. I forgot that. Well, in Twitter, I saved the like the methodology about how, I mean, in a good way, how do you make a survey by using a WhatsApp? I don't know whether you have read that or not. I saved that, but I tried to find it, but I forgot the paper. Perhaps I will send it to you later.
Okay.
Because
Thank you very
it's a really good. It's a really good
Yeah.
methodology. So like you survey by using this using a WhatsApp. So maybe that's going to be a good alternative instead of using a Twitter, because as Mr. Gilang said that if you need to follow up, I don't know whether it is possible to make a follow up by using Twitter, because like Mr. Yudhistira said, it's going to be very hard to differentiate between the what do you call it, the bot and the and the non-bot Twitter, like that. Okay, because but if you use WhatsApp, it's it's going to be trackable. And you can always ask, or perhaps if you have an answer from the respondent which unclear, you can still ask them back, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I think it will be interesting if I could compare both of the results from the Twitter data and also the WhatsApp. So if you have still have the paper, please send it to me, Mas Asdi.
I'm trying to find it, but it's a bit while ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you.
Okay. Thank you, Mas.
Yeah.
Okay, for me personally, it's yeah, it's for me personally, it's kind of weird, like using only Twitter, because the most like maybe like a gamers community, which is most of them is like elementary school age children. So usually they use Facebook. So maybe you can also add analysis with Facebook. So
Oh, yeah.
maybe it's much
Okay.
more representative, and maybe if because I think Noah, but maybe it's biased for my only community, but you can see that maybe Facebook or an Instagram or something, they also give the insight of this study. But another thing is about Twitter. You cannot control the age because you never know how old is he or how old is she. But in Facebook, usually they give you the information about the birthday, so it's much more easier to observe about the age group. And even though like I know that this one is like about like a sentiment, but maybe the sentiment is tweeted not only by students, maybe by other people, maybe their parents, maybe someone that does not, maybe the bot also. So yeah, it's much more harder to control using Twitter for this kind of, for the specific Indonesian students perspective.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mas Arif. I'm actually aware of that. Is it tweets from students or not? But if I look at it by one, then I could know that this is a real student or not. So that's how I clean the data so far.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions from participants? No other questions? Okay, if there is no other questions, thank you, Mrs. I forgot, sorry.
Natasha.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, wait. Okay, Mrs. Kanetasha, thank you for your presentation. It's really interesting. Maybe you can improve with our suggestions. And now we will, okay, yeah, you're welcome. And we will go to next presentation about my paper about the untold story of cohabitations, marital choice, and education investment in Eastern Indonesia. Okay, I will share my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Today I will present my papers about the title is The Untold Story of Cohabitations, Marital Choice, and Education Investment in Eastern Indonesia. This is my joint paper with Mr. Gumilang Sehdewa. He is here in this conference, and Mrs. Milda Irhamni from Jamal Poverty Action Lab, Southeast Asia, and Mr. Randy Kurniawan from Universitas Gadjah Mada. First, the background of this study. A lot of studies have shown that cohabitation decisions have negative effect on children's outcomes, such as behaviors, test scores, health, and psychology. But most of these studies conducted in the developed country, because maybe lack of the data, and there is maybe also in much more traditional society, the cohabitation is not so common. So that's why it's all of the existing paper, most of them are conducted in the developed country. Yeah, but despite its effects, a couple in some communities opt out of marriage because of the cost of marriage, especially in Indonesia. Okay, I will give you some example about these communities in Eastern Indonesia. They cannot go for a marriage because of the expensive, the really high value of the bride price. For example, Kodi Sumba, one of the most poor region in Indonesia, and also in Lamarhut Flores, you can imagine that this bride price is $7,689. It's like almost 200% of our Indonesian GDP, even though their per capita GDP in Kodi Sumba is much less than compared to Indonesian GDP per capita. And also in Flores, it's ranged from 900, like $1,000 until around 8,000 US dollars. Yeah, it's really huge for the people that they live in the really poor area. Then they don't have any much more economic resources compared to other people. So that's why a lot of people in this area, especially in Nusa Tenggara and some area of the Eastern Indonesia, choose to cohabit rather than married. And we know that in economic literature, we know that partner with financial constraint that they can delay the marriage and just to cohabit. And this is the case of Indonesia. So the case is not they cannot go to marriage and they cohabit, but they do cohabit to accumulate the money in order to marry in the future. And this our study exploit the cohabitations that is common in Eastern Indonesia to explore the effect of cohabitations on child's cognitive development and its potential determining factor. Now we have data. We use Indonesia Family Life Survey IS data in 2000 and conducted in 2012, covering around 10,000 individuals living in 2,500 households. And we use also the cognitive ability. Cognitive ability here is using colored Raven progressive matrix test and mathematics test result based on age group available in EFLS. Why we use only in EFLS is because if using only EFLS, we got the sample for the household that cohabit in 2014 only 4. So it's for statistically it cannot make any sense. So we use just for the Indonesia Family Survey that specifically conducted in East where the cohabitation is really common there. And also education spending here is measured using the ratio between total education related expenditures and total household expenditures. So it's not about the effect of cohabitation on increasing like the value of education spending, but how the household allocate their money. Maybe they more prefer they spend more in the educations and then take less from the food or something. So we will discuss it later. And here we use instrumental variable. In the first stage, we have male child. Male child here is if household has the first male as child and born before their marriage, we put the value 1 and 0 otherwise. And it is the predictive. This is the IV to predict the cohabitations. And in the second stage, we use the predictive value of cohabitations to predict the cognitive ability of the children and the education investment for the household. Okay, using IV, why we use IV? First, like there is reverse causality. Now, I will give you some an example. Now we have a couple A. They have an initial endowment of 6,000, and the bride price is 3,000, and childbearing cost is 4,000. And couple B, initial endowment is 6,000, bride price is 3,000, and expected and the digital within family is 3,000. So this high cost of childbearing is always will be determined by marriage station because people will count like if they have a mental accounting, they count every possibility that maybe if I have only 6,000 and my birth price is 3,000 and my child rearing cost is 4,000. Okay, I will go for cohabitations because I don't have any resource to get married and fund my family. But if the bride price is 3,000 and maybe the expected, maybe they think that in the future it's not so high, the cost of bearing child only 3,000. So yeah, so this expected outcome of the children also induce the decision for the cohabitations, and also endogeneity from poverty in marriage market entry, like a lack of asset of groom and and lack of asset of the family, so they cannot fund the marriage, so they just took a habit. Okay, this one is our instrument. Our instrument is having non-marital son as first child as a dummy. And the base value is the combination of having non-marital daughter as first child, having marital children, and having no biological children. So this one only if household have a non-marital son as a first child and 0 otherwise. Okay, also literature show that there is positive causal relationship between having non-marital childbirth and cohabitations. And also parents can, for the economic perspective, also parent can expect that boys can contribute to household work for like child labor. So if they have a boy born before, so it's much more easier for them to, okay, let's get married, and we can fund the marriage after we have child, and we can ask them to work. And also a previous study in the United States that child gender has correlation with marital decisions. yeah, but we have to make sure that our instrument is not correlated with poverty during marriage entry. For this, we provide some tests. The first test is we try to track these economic conditions and past economic conditions. So EFLS questionnaire give us this information, so we can check, like doing like a simple t-test. It should be no different if our instrument is not, if our instrument is valid, it should be, there is no difference between having son as first child compared to other for the economic conditions. And this one, we found that there is no correlations between having non-marital son for the first child and the current economic condition or past economic conditions. And also we try to find, okay, this one only a t-test, but we can also try to estimate our first stage, our instrumental variable first stage. And here is first stage and the second stage. And okay, this one is the, we can do it here first. And the first column, we use this, we use control for the asset before marriage minus the value of the price of the marriage entry. After controlling this, if on the asset before marriage, they have the value of 0.0004 for the coefficient the first test and 0.001, and it does not change this our estimation. So even after controlling this, our estimation still have the consistent result. And another thing is for the IV is the exclusion restrictions. So as the idea of exclusion restriction is our IV should affect Y, which is in education. This one is share of education and cognitive ability only through the cohabitation. So we try to say, okay, there is no formal test to do this, but we can do like a falsification test. We try to use like a head of household Muslim, which is in the head of household Muslim is much more harder to get cohabitation. So maybe this one is not valid for this kind of Muslim household, because you cannot marry because the law is prohibit the people to get married. Also in another religion, but it's not so. In Muslim, is much more strict about this law. So we find no statistically significant result for this head of household Muslim. So it means that this IV does not affect Y directly, and it affect Y through this cohabitation. And also about monotonicity, monotonicity said that this our IV should have should affect Y at least a 0 or in the same direction. So we have all of the positive significant. So it means that this monotonicity assumption is held also. And we jump to result and conclusions. And first, we find that child from cohabit parent has cognitive score 0.288 standard deviations point lower than their peers. And surprisingly, this effect is larger compared to the increasing for the teacher quality and the increasing of school quality in the US. The teacher quality and school quality in the US increase the cognitive score of children only by around 0.11 standard deviation point. So 0.288, it's more than twice of this effect of the comparing of the children of the teacher quality and the school quality. And for the education spending, okay, maybe for this instrumental variable, we don't know how to say like how this can affect this child cognitive score. And we find here like for the education spending, like yes, because cohabit households spend their money less in educational purpose, and it's around by 4.4 percentage point. And for the compared to median expenditures, this cohabit household spend 1 million less than married couple. And in average household spend 4.5 million on education expenditures. So this cohabitation effect more or less like decrease the household education expenditure consumption by 25%, around 20 until 25%. And but it's still not so interesting just because of this educational purpose is decreasing. So we try to see more details about this expenditures, and we found that usually for this decrease in child cognitive, because of the less of this school tuition fee expenditures and also uniform and school supplies. Why this one happened? Because maybe the parents send their children to low quality school, which has a low tuition fee. That's why they have a lower cognitive score. But also even though they for this uniform and school supplies is not so significant. Yeah, it's statistically significant, but economically not significant. Yeah, maybe they spend less on the lack of school supplies. Yeah, this is one of our explanation about this economic relation, how these cohabitations affect this child outcome. But also we try to find another things. Okay, this one is for the bias. So we already presented before. So there's no things to present again. And okay, maybe it's not through only through economic channel, but through another channels like maybe share of other things like protein, carbohydrates, vegetables. Also, maybe parents spend more in temptation because they're much more stressed, and so they don't care about their children. But also about the participants of this child development and immunization program, like a child development program providing Posyandu, BCG vaccine, polio, DPT vaccines, and hepatitis vaccines, and also maybe mother prenatal visits during their pregnancy. So we don't find any significant result for other potential link the cohabitation on child's cognitive development. So maybe we can conclude that these cohabitations affect children outcome through economic channel, because they have a lot of burden to go to marriage, so they have to save their money, and then they invest less in their children in order to keep the money to in the future they can marry. So our concluding remark, first, like the cohabitation decreased child cognitive score by 0.28 at standard deviation point, and decrease in cognitive score is explained by low education spending, by sending their children to low quality school, and by less school supplies such as book, pencil, etc. And cohabitation also has negative effect on child cognitive score through household resources, allocation, and educations. And we find no other link cohabitation effect on child cognitive development. And this, our policy implication, it's much more harder, because this one is much more or less like this cultural norm. And yeah, our result should be interpreted correctly. It's not, instead of punishing cohabit family, but policymakers should work on how to reduce barriers to marriage. Maybe government, like in the most of the area that this cohabitation is really common, they can try to collaborate with the local leaders or something, just to reduce the barriers or reduce the common value of the bride price. And yes, and also limitation, our city cannot be generalized for other community, even though also in Indonesia, because we also focus on eastern part of Indonesia, and also because of the community different characteristic than other community. So thank you. It's our presentations. Yeah. So I'm the moderator again. So maybe if anyone have any other questions, time is yours. Okay, first, Mr. Khalifani.
Okay, thank you very much. It's really nice presentation. Well, it's I haven't used the IFL is actually what I have gone through a little bit. But what I want to ask here is that what is the proportions of cohabitations in IFLS is? And because you said that in IFLS, the regular IFLS, the number of the proportion of cohabitation, it's pretty low, right? But yeah, what is the percentage in IFLS is? And secondly, I don't know whether you are able to use this as well. Perhaps maybe in your result, it is you found that that these cohabitations have effects on the educational spending, right? The allocations from the household for educations. But perhaps maybe you also could try about the educational attainments of these children. I don't know if it's stable. If you do that by using the IFLS, since the IFLS is only on that period only, you cannot track, back or back to the previous year before 2012. But I think if you are able to do that, it's going to be a great result, because even though the allocations of the allocations for educations is low, but perhaps maybe in eastern part of Indonesia, the cost of schooling is not that high compared to the west part, for example. So even though they have low allocations for education, they still have a good educational attainment. Well, we don't know that. But perhaps you could try that in terms of these cohabitations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Khalifani. Okay, for the first question about the portion of cohabitation in Indonesia Family Life Survey is okay in the IFLS, the common IFLS in 2014. I do this analysis for the data. It's only 4 compared to 15,000 household. So it's really, really low. It's almost 0.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah, yeah. But for this IFLS is where I don't remember exactly the number, but it's around 25% of the merits. It's cohabitations. So that's why it's much more interesting to do it in the IFLS, and also because in IFLS the culture is not so completely different compared to another. Yeah, maybe also there is still a different type of cultures in Indonesia, but also we already control the ethnicity of this. Yeah, and also we control for this type of the marital culture of this for this is its specific ethnics. So yeah, but still for a lot of things to do again. And for the educational attainment, yes. First, we don't know that this educational attainment because this one only 1 year panel. No, it's not pilot. 1 year survey. So
it's cross section, yeah.
Yeah, it's cross section survey. That's why we cannot track like the long-term outcome. Yeah, we can track the older with the historical outcome, but we never know how this like we don't know this expenditure with yeah we cannot like control the current conditions. Yeah, but for the indication, maybe not for this causality, so we can try to do this. So thank you so much for the suggestions. Okay, next I see the question from Professor Budi Reza Sudarmo.
Yes, thank you for the presentation, and thank you for using IFLS. That's good because this data is available and in a way still under research. So my question are two. One is a more general. So the cohabitation and less common of those things, it seemed to me are growing up hand with modernization. So in general, just want to ask question whether you are looking actually at the influence of modernization, or you just looking at household strategic behavior. That is the first the general question. The second question is more micro question. And so I understand that that you also see the problem that you have this endogeneity issue, in which particularly on reverse causality, in which that family that is not smart enough then tend to be co-inhabited. So instead of the decision of co-inhabited and creating an output parameter that you look, but the tendency to have those output is actually determining their decision to co-inhabit it or not. And so then it seemed to me that you trying to resolve those things with instrument. Now, I actually cannot see very well what kind of instrument that you are using, and what is your argument that that instrument is actually fulfilling the exclusivity requirement for that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the first question is about this. Now, yeah, we know that cohabitation is growing with the marriages. Also in the big city, there's a lot of people living together without marriage, and yeah, it's common. That's why a lot of studies in a lot of studies about cohabitation is done in developed countries. But for this kind of Indonesian in the Eastern Indonesia, mostly these cohabitations in the rural area. In our sample, so it's much more not like about this modernizations, but yeah, it's only about this cultural reason about because they cannot go to marriage, and also and then so they just got cohabitation. They just got cohabitation. So it's not like about the Western literatures that say that why cohabitation affect this children outcome because of this, because there is no commitment for the marriage, so they have less commitment for the children. But now here, because of this kind of economic constraint, so they prohibit this household to marriage, so they invest less on the children and decrease this cognitive ability of the children. And also for the second question, for the endogeneity issues, okay, we use the instrument of our instrument is if household has non-marital children as the first child, and the gender is male. First, why this? Okay, if the household have like married by accident, like this, it's much more easier for this household to get for this couple to get married. But also this one is not so, and also if still they have to pay the bride price, but if they have a male as the gender of this child, maybe they can ask this child, maybe in the future they can, okay, let's just marry it and lend some money from our family so we can fund our marital costs, and then this children we can ask for these children to to work in the future just to pay for the wedding because of this expected reason, maybe of this economic reasons. So we can get more money so for having son. So that's why for household it's much more reasonable to get married if they have son, rather than to we have the girl, because in the girl you have also another cost, but you cannot ask for the girl to doing child labor. That's our argument. But also because the previous literature arguments say that also child gender in general, not only the child gender born before the non-marital children born, also it's also affect the marital decision. So we use this as an instrumental variable. Thank you. Maybe there is another issue that we can discuss. So it's much more. I will be happy because I can improve my papers, Professor Budi.
I would like to give another suggestions based on Prof. Budi questions. You said that you conduct this research based on their behavior, so that's why they choose to cohabitate rather than to officially marry, right? Perhaps you can use, let's say, the variable of PCE, the per capita expenditure for each family, so you can show that these samples that you use for this research are that they have a low PCE, for example. So that's why they choose to cohabitate rather than to marry officially. So you can specifically say that they choose cohabitations as a result of the PCE that they have is relatively low.
Yeah. Thank you. It's possible to do. Yeah, it's like only like an indication about how this maybe this cohabitation is much more concentrated in the low per capita income, or in the also it diverse for all of this income group. Yeah, thank you. It's really good suggestions. Maybe we can improve our paper for this. Thank you, Mr. Khalifani. Maybe any other questions? No other questions? Okay, if no other questions, my presentation is done. So thank you for your attentions. And this the paper for this panel for the panel sessions is done. So we can I don't know what this what should be done after this. So maybe I will back to Mrs. for the committee to this session. So thank you. Thank you for your attention. So really have a nice day, and we already have a really nice discussion. So thank you.